Divine Source, Great Spirit, by your love and your grace, we're called here today. We're grateful to be in service to our own healing and awakening, and as channels to bring your message through. Please speak to us and through us for the highest good of all. And so it is.
Welcome to Talking Spirit. My name is Jutta, and I'm back with my lovely friend Elizabeth.
Greetings, everyone.
Yeah, welcome back. We've had a nice morning here of receiving messages from the Spirit on both ends that felt really lined up with each other. So that's always a really lovely sign, and I'm very grateful for that. And it seems like the message that came through this morning is around these times on our journey where it's almost like we're playing a waiting game, or the temptation is to play a waiting game, but really there's a lot of work being done internally and, by the Spirit and by our team of helpers that's always with us and doing a lot of work in the background. And yeah, just these kind of more quiet times on our journeys where there could be a really strong temptation to feel like something is going wrong because we can't see what's happening. We can't see anything happening, perhaps. And I think the message is just from the Spirit today that those times, they come with a lesson of developing more trust and, learning to know that there are things being built in our minds that will lead, to insights, or, perhaps they're just times that will end up a story to share with someone else who's going through something similar. But yeah, I think just the overall message is that there's a lot happening that we're not aware of, and to not get caught up in the doubts and feelings like we should be doing more in order, to see more happening. So yeah, we're always coming with very empty minds and a deep willingness to see what the Spirit has to say about these topics. And yeah, I'm excited to see where it'll go. What's coming to your mind, Elizabeth?
So I was having a flashback onto a period in my journey that I had left spiritual community. I had gone back to kind of my hometown and had spent some time caring for a family member, and then met a friend, got into this relationship, lots of healing, but I had taken on, mortgage for a business and all this kind of worldly stuff, sort of in and out of these different containers for healing. And boy, were they all dynamic containers for healing. And but I got the message at one point that the relationship I was in was to come to a close, and that I wasn't to be a part of this business anymore. It wasn't that far into the years of this business, and it was like, you got to pull out, and people and resources and seeming complicated stuff that I was to be pulled out of at that point. And I was really, like, what is next? Big one, big, And, had done this Peruvian shamanism training, and was at that point that I just flashed on to staying with my father. He had sold my childhood home and was renting a condo. And I don't know about anybody else, but moving back in, with a parent is not always the easiest choice. And I was really twisted up. I was really in pain, feeling like I had made countless mistakes in my path. and was really deeply like, what is next? And I was just flashing on to this dream that I had. I'm a pretty big dreamer, seemingly for others, often receiving messages in dream time for others, and sometimes for myself, but usually it's for other people. But I had this dream where this hummingbird came in just so dynamically, and it was like in my dream I could feel its wings fluttering around my body. It was the most delicious experience, and it just went round and round and round and lit me up. It was so juicy and full of love and grace. And it was like this little love note, or not so little love note, saying, you're okay and you're on your journey. The hummingbird is such a dynamic symbol of that mythic journey that we're all on. And this tiny little, being has this unbelievable storehouse of resources within to make these huge journeys. I just love the hummingbird symbol. It's just like it speaks so deeply to my heart. And there it was in all its iridescent glory and yumminess. And I woke up with such a sense of being healed, such a sense of love in my heart that I was going to be okay. And not long after that, just like one thing, there was like nothing showing up. One thing showed up, and that was an invitation for me to go and house sit for a friend who was going to Peru for 2 months and had just moved to Oregon and had a dog and had a business and needed help while he was going to take off for the 2 months. And so sure enough, that was it. That was the one thing that became really clear that I was to go and do. So off my little dog Charlie and I, off we went as passengers in some college kid's car cross country to a new part of the adventure. And it was a profoundly healing time that then unfolded for me in Oregon. And, we are invited constantly into this idea of dying daily or moment by moment dying. But most of us have pretty deep investments in the world. And so, we talk often about being divested out of the world so that we can be in the channel with spirit. And for me, these times of great transition have always been hard. They've always caused lots of concern in my mind, and all my control freak issues come up to the surface, and they get to be, used by the spirit for deeper and deeper healing. So it's an important part of the journey. And yeah, it's just, I've been shown through many of those kinds of phases in my life that there is an orchestration happening, as you said, behind the scenes. And that example of my friend inviting me to help him in Oregon, I was on pause, waiting for him to line up. He was the vehicle the Spirit was going to use to get me out to the West Coast, because there were people I needed to meet, things I needed to do, experiences I needed to have, healing that was required, and he was going to be the vehicle to get me there. And so I was literally, apparently in hindsight, waiting for him to move from Chicago to Oregon. So there is an orchestration that we are meant to be moved through or as a part of. And for me, it's almost always in hindsight that I get to see it. Sometimes I'm given information ahead of time, precognition kind of stuff, but mostly it's a trust fall, and it's a time to go deep within and be in a state of surrender and to being receptive to, what the Spirit wants to show us. So that's what I got here.
That's great. There's so much good stuff in it, and so many moments of my life that are coming back, and I don't quite know which one to choose. Yeah, I mean, for me too, the time after I left community, It was a really funky time because it's when COVID really started to kick in. So I was in San Francisco and all the news started to come out about this thing, right? And people are starting to freak out. And I'm kind of feeling the freak out because I'm staying at this hostel in the middle of San Francisco. And all the people there are just, yeah, in the panic of this worldwide craziness. And Spirit is so freaking amazing. I ended up getting a message from my friend who was living in Alaska at the time. He's not into TV, so I wasn't really surrounded by news and everything. So I was kind of like cocooned in this little place in the middle of nowhere and just mountains surrounding me. And there's part of my mind that still to this day can get into this track of, okay, what do I need to do with my life now? What's being asked of me now? And I gotta get a move on and I gotta get this thing done, and or whatever it is. But it was nice for me in the beginning when I first landed in Alaska, because I really felt that actually what I was meant to be doing was to just chill out and really just enjoy being there and not doing anything and not having any pressure. And so I just did a lot of hikes and foraged wild mushrooms, and it was awesome. Encountered lots of animals. And then it was like that was sort of fizzling out a little bit, and I could feel that I was starting kind of to fall into this waiting game trap. And at the same time, there wasn't really anything becoming very clear for me. And so, I tried my best to just relax with it and really allow that time just to do what it wanted to do. And, after a while, it was like, oh, okay, all right, it's getting clearer now. So that was kind of one of those times where almost like a lull in the messages was happening, and it can be really freaky. And my mind could really go into panic with it. And yeah, it's just, these times are so important for really watching, like you said, that control mechanism wants to come in and try to make things happen. And yeah, and the way things ended up kind of moving for me was a little message from my friend who I was staying with to go have a session with a Course in Miracles psychic, which that was not a concept that I was aware of. But I had this call with that person, and even the guidance that was coming through him was very much, the message kind of was to continue being the space. And in that space, things would get clear. And that's exactly what happened. It was really, really amazing. And also, it seems like the last few years, it's been this stretch of time where I'm going still from place to place, even though I've been feeling like I want to settle somewhere. And yet, it's just not clear where I'm meant to be settling. And it's a real mind watcher, because, underneath it all for me in the last few years has been this idea of starting a business. And every once in a while there's this like, oh my God, you're missing your window of opportunity for getting that going for real, and I've sat in prayer with it so much. And at this point, the messages that I keep getting is that you are doing work. You're doing a lot of work, and there's no window to miss here. And, let me orchestrate the timing, let me orchestrate the place, and you're just here to receive the right moment when it's actually there. So yeah, so those are some of the ideas that are coming through my mind at this moment.
So one of the things that was coming in as I was listening to you was this idea of the vision. What's the vision that's guiding our moment by moment experience? And for myself and for Yuta, we have this vision from the Spirit, of the Spirit, to be with the Spirit. And so, everything is kind of couched in that understanding, in that kind of container. And that's really everything, I had those experiences in earlier so-called phases of my life that were as equally painful, but they were geared towards trying to fit in the world. And of course, we always talk about this stuff, and this is the point of these talks, but it's like, it's good to really get clear. Like, we've been able to ride those times out because of the vision, because we have in our hearts a real clarity of what the purpose is. The purpose is healing. The purpose is awakening. And so everything kind of falls into line because of that. It gets streamlined. Doesn't necessarily mean it makes it any easier or any less, like being the fish on the hooks, squirming around. But there is a through line to it, you might say, that does sustain. I got the symbol of the hummingbird coming to me because that was the way the Spirit knew it was going to get its message through loud and clear. So it's important to kind of come back to that, like the vision of what we're called to in the Spirit is that guiding force. You might say, obviously, well, when you're in it, it doesn't necessarily feel obvious, right? It often felt to me like, oh my gosh, I'm in this. I mean, for me, some of my periods of this kind of energetic were years. Deep in my healing, deep in forgiveness work, deep in doing like energy work and personal healing work, right? So it's not like I was just sitting around staring at a wall, but there were years of this kind of like, where am I going, right? Massive, massive requirements for me to build trust and faith, to learn how to really listen deeply, not just as fluffy, I think I, saw a sign here or there. No, like have no signs whatsoever and still trust. How about that? Like in the beginning, I got a lot of like the nigglies and the little, wisps of inspiration. But then there were many, many days and weeks and months and years where I felt like I wasn't getting a single sign. And I had to dig so deep, right? Really powerful, really helpful. It takes different ways and it shows up differently for each of us because we have different things we're working out for the whole. None's better, none's more important. None, it's all the same ultimately, but, it just can look different. So we talk about it differently. So, the vision is the thing that is going to help us ride these waves where it feels like the bottom's dropped out, or it feels like there is no next step to take. I had a vision come up today through one of the cards, and it's a young lady who seems to be walking on dominoes. And all of a sudden, as the path winds out in front of her, the dominoes drop away as if she's got nothing to step on. They're like almost like piano keys, right? That she's stepping on along her path. But then all of a sudden, they're gone. There's those in-between places where it seems like nothing is lined up. Nothing is revealing itself. And again, back to this idea of like, well, why is it that way sometimes? Well, it seems to me I'm part of a greater story, and there are other players that are invited to play their part to support this great awakening, to support all the other players. Well, sometimes players don't play their part for the highest good. Sometimes they choose to go down a different path, right? They don't line up with the Spirit's vision very specifically, right? People may not move to places they're supposed to move to. They may not leave work that they're supposed to leave. They may not get out of any number of situations that are old storylines that are trying to die. One of the messages that came through for us was the dying to the old, right? If you're not willing to let go of these storylines that you've played out eon after eon, the players, the dynamics, the storylines, then you can't be taken into a new story. We're birthing a new way, in a sense, of being so that we can live the happy dream, so that we're prepared to handle the blast of light and reunion that is where we're all going. It takes a deep surrender to be lit up the way the Spirit is going to light us up ultimately.
Yeah, that's so important. I love that you bring that up. What really carries us through those times, or any time, is this deep desire to be in the channel with Spirit, that higher vision for why we're here. And yeah, when I look back at anything, that's always what keeps me going forward. And times where part of my mind was like, oh my God, you need to get a job now, make some money. And I could easily have done that. And yet it was always like, I tried taking little steps towards it, and it's like, no, this feels horrible. And it's because I want to be lined up with what feels of the Spirit. And every time I try to follow ideas of my scared small mind that really doesn't know what it's doing here, doesn't know why it's here, and it just kind of kicks in when things are they're getting a little heated up, so to speak, and it's really, really this deep time to just trust the Spirit, even if there's, you don't know where your next meal's coming from because there's no money. So that part kicks in, and it just wants to take control and get everything lined up so that everything is safe in form. And all of those times where I could really see that happening. I mean, even the fact that I could see it happening only happened because I want to be lined up with the Spirit and really what's meant to be happening for me. I want to be part of that orchestration where everyone is playing exactly the part that they need to play. I want to be playing the part that I need to play. And yeah, the desire for Spirit and being lined up really is, like you said, that through line through these funky times where you just don't quite know what's going on. And part of your mind wants to do something just so it can feel like it has a handle on it. Yeah, anytime that I'm able to just sink back into, okay, no, Spirit's got this. There's something else happening here that I perhaps can't see. Maybe I'm not supposed to know about it. So until something gets really clear and obvious for me to do or, move or whatever it might be, then I'm just going to continue as I was. So yeah, I love that you kind of pulled that piece out, because that is the thing. And that's the thing that I think everyone on their path needs to really develop and will develop. It's just a natural progression, I think, of, being on this journey with a desire to be truly helpful and a desire to be lined up with the Spirit and really what's meant to be happening for each one of us. And it's a beautiful lesson to integrate and then to be able to share it as well, because how many times have I come across somebody exactly in that place of like, what is happening? I need to be doing something. Why can't I do something? It's like, okay, take a deep breath. Are you in danger? Is it life and death? No. Okay. Are you secure in a home? Yeah. Okay, great. Lovely. You're taken care of. Everything is good. And this is just one of those times to really develop the trust that even though you can't see it, everything is in its order, everything is in its right place. So, yeah, love that.
Yeah, the as you were speaking, you said the word a few times, I think, was desire, desire, desire. And there's a piece to this conversation, that's beyond just the desire for spirit. Again, yes, that's going to be our through line for this experience going home. But part of these moments where it seems like the road drops out, right? And we're confused about the direction forward, if we're in the channel or not, in these moments of kind of in between. Often it's because we've shot up all of these kinds of, let's just say, little sparks, using the power of our mind, right? The idea of like, oh, I'm going to manifest. Oh, I'm going to manifest a new home, or I want to manifest a new car, or I want to manifest a boyfriend, or I want to manifest, being a whatever, a singer out in the world. If we're shooting up desires that are really driven by the self, the little self, the personality, they become kind of storylines that are looking to land in a sense. They're looking to have an answer given back to them. And so there's an element of mixed purposes and mixed intention and mixed desires. There are times where these choice points, you might say, come up to the surface in a really big way, where we've got to sit through weeding out choices that once upon a time we might have thought we wanted to have come our way. And so for me, a lot of these periods are like, what do I really want? Like, I'd have that message come up a lot in my morning writing. I'd hear Spirit say to me, what do you want? And I would write all kinds of stuff down. What do you want? Write more stuff. What do you want? And each time that would get refined. But I had to weed through a lot of stuff that looked like worldly stuff. I had to be cutting away all of these things in my mind that had been there looking for a place to land. Well, if I'm sending my energy out, the potency of my mind out in a million different directions, then it's going to be pretty hard for me to see the symbol and the sign of the Spirit calling me to my awakening. So, these periods that we're talking about, maybe we've already said it, but there's another layer of it that's really wanting to come in, of getting down in deep to understand what's the choice that I want to make. Not having 5 million different possibilities in our back pocket. You talking about, thinking, maybe I should go get a job. That's a back pocket issue. I've pulled that card out of my back pocket a million times in moments of wavering, in moments of doubt, in moments of thinking maybe it would be easier if I just went back to sleep. So if we have all these desires that have been operating, maybe consciously, maybe unconsciously, those have to be brought to rest for us to be able to be brought into that cattle chute with the Spirit. I'm just seeing all these strings going out in the mind, in your seeming part of the mind, a million different things. I want to be famous. I want to be a mother. I want to be this, that, and the other. They've all got to collapse into where all you want is your alignment with Spirit.
Absolutely. Yeah. I guess I didn't even think about those options because I think it's just been so natural over the last 10 years for me to actually just ask, what do you want for me? And so the kind of personal wishes and desires don't, if I think about it, there's not that much going on. So I'm glad that you were able to pick up on that. So thank you. Yeah, it's like our our minds have to be one, right? We can't, on this path, continue forward with the spirit while having all this stuff in our back pockets, all these plan Bs. We really have to go for plan A, and that is life from spirit in this dream, which is the only place that will bring us any true peace and true happiness. And it's not something that we can really logically decide on. We have to really experientially come to a place where we can feel that that's the only real way to go forward here, and everything else is delaying and distracting. So the spirit wants everyone to feel encouraged on this journey, and times when it feels like we're maybe in limbo or something, I think spirit is really saying that there's no limbo. There's always something occurring that's expanding the mind, and exactly being in that sort of pressure cooker of not knowing what to do is where the miracle is and where the juiciness is, and just hanging tight and sitting tight and continuing to trust and continuing to trust is the way to go through. So, very sweet topic, and I'm glad we got to talk about it. And thanks to anyone who's been joining us. Looking forward to seeing you next time.
Bye for now.
Bye for now.
Hummingbird, I hear you calling. Teach me how you fly so